Hi, welcome to my channel. So today's video I want to share a little story with you guys to bring awareness about molestation, because as a child I was molested by two different family members, and if I'm looking down it's because I wrote everything down so it don't be all over the place and I won't lose my train of thought basically. So let's jump right into the video. So at the age of 6, when I was 6, that's when it first began. That's where I remember. So when I was 6, I remember I was molested by my first cousin. It didn't start with oral sex. It started with inappropriate touching, where he used to have me fill up on him and he used to do the same to me. And my parents never taught me about inappropriate touching, so when this happened to me I wasn't aware that this is inappropriate, this is not okay. So with that being said, he basically took advantage of me. As a child you can easily mold them and groom them to do basically whatever you want, and if you tell them not to say something, more than likely they won't say something. And in my case I didn't say anything. So I always been a quiet, shy kid. So when this happened, I didn't say anything at first, but once it started progressing and I started to feel pain, that's when I decided to say something. I remember when I decided to tell my mother what was going on, it was because one night we got to my grandmother's house and everybody was outside playing. See, with me I have health issues, so I used to be sick a lot, so I never used to go outside and play. I always stayed inside the house, so I was an easy target. That being said, while everybody was out playing or in the park, I was in the house basically alone while all the grown people was doing their own thing. I was by myself. He came and he took me to a back room and he basically touched me. And I remember when we got home that night and I was getting ready to take a bath, when the water hit me I was in so much pain. I started crying and then I started bleeding. So my mother, she started to freak out and panic and asked me what happened, did anybody touch me? And I told her yes. Obviously I'm not going to say his name, but I told her my cousin such and such touched me, this is what happened. And honestly, like any parent, when you hear that your little girl has been touched by somebody, you go into protective mode. You want to defend your child and make sure they're okay. So the next morning, while everybody gone to school, she took me over there to confront him, which I did. And obviously he lied about it. He said he was on the park the whole time, and his mother was there too. So he said he was on the park the whole time, he didn't touch me, this and that. So my mom took me and his mother, my aunt, we all gone to the hospital, and she got me checked out. We gone to the OBGYN and they did a pap smear and checked inside to make sure everything was okay. Everything came back fine. They got the bleeding to stop, and you know, after that, that was the end of that. He never touched me again. So after a while everything was good, like it was nice. I was back to being myself, happy, going to school, you know, everything was good. And then one day another family member of mine, he started touching me. And the first time I told my mother, but this time I felt like, you know what, nothing's really gonna be done because he denied it the first time. So I know if I tell her that I'm being touched again by somebody else, all they have to do is deny it, and then that would be the end of it. So I decided to keep it to myself and not speak up on it. So with the second one, that actually gone on for a very, very long time, and I was dealing with it by myself. And I remember I wasn't as happy as much. Before I was super happy, always smiling, but now like I was still happy and still smiling, but I wasn't myself. Each time he would touch me, I felt like I was losing myself. Part of me was being taken away from me. I felt like my childhood was stolen. And they still didn't talk to us about inappropriate touching after that. Not that I recall. But after that, things start to get worse. It didn't just go from him touching me to me touching him. He started to feel on me and started making me do things that a 7-year-old shouldn't do, you know. So eventually it moved on from touching to oral sex. So I remember he would lock me in a room with him and he would make me watch porn and reenact the things he's seen on basically the DVD. And I wasn't comfortable, but I didn't say anything because I knew if I would have said anything, it probably would have made the situation worse. So I just kept it to myself. So he would make me watch porn with him, and then eventually he would tell me to perform oral sex on him. And I remember I scratched him one time, and he was like, "Ouch," basically, and he basically was coaching me on what to do, obviously, and being that young, I didn't know. I knew it wasn't okay because I didn't feel comfortable, and I just wanted someone to like come in and walk on us because if I knew they would catch us being like doing this stuff, it would stop and it would be over and I wouldn't have to deal with that anymore. But obviously that didn't happen. So eventually every time my mother would take me over there, I would just cry at the door, asking her, telling her, "I don't want to stay here, I want to go with you, take me with you, please." And I remember every time she would drop me off, I would just stand by the door and cry and cry and cry and cry and just wait there for her to come back. And he will always find me and always take me in the room, and we would basically do oral sex. And these are the places we used to do it: in our bathroom, the bedroom, or the shed that was outside. And he used to want everybody out playing because I was always sick. I never played, so I always stayed in the house. While everybody out playing, he would basically lock me in a room and take advantage of me and make me do all these awful things that no child should know about or have to perform on anybody, you know. And I remember while we was in a room, sorry, cut off, but like I was saying, I remember while we was in a room one time, my cousin actually walked in on us. Well, not walked in, but we was in the room. He had the chair against the door to like lock it so they couldn't open it, and she basically tried to open the door, but she couldn't get it open. So she knocked, and then that's when he told me put on my clothes and get on the cover, which I did, obviously. And he opened the door and turned the porn off, and he said, "What do you want?" And she was like, she didn't say anything. She walked in and then walked back out. I'm like, in that moment I knew nobody was coming to save me. Nobody cared. Like, you have to know something. I'm 7 and this man is almost 18, and you walked in and you don't think nothing of it. The door is locked and it's just us two in a room. You know what I mean? So I know they didn't care. So I just kept to myself, and it made me really sad. No lie, I was really, really sad. But I knew I couldn't do anything about it because they didn't care. So I just kept it to myself. And he used to give me money to stay quiet, but I was gonna stay quiet anyway because I knew they didn't care what happened to me because this happened before and nothing was done. So I remember one night my mother took us all to my grandma's house. I think it was during a hurricane, and our roof collapsed. roofs, so we had to go to my grandmother's house to sleep there until our roof got fixed. And so everybody's sleeping, and I wake up and he's on top of me, and I was so shocked, taken back, because I'm like, everybody's here, what is he doing, you know? And he just told me, like, he went like this and just did what he needed to do. And once he was finished, he got up and left, gone to the restroom, and that was the end of that. So this honestly messed me up, and I still can't figure out why did anybody say anything? Why did they just let this happen to me? You know what I mean? And so eventually I started to convince myself that it's better me than my younger sister or sister in general to have to face this. I'd rather it be me than them. So I just sucked it up and just dealt with it. And it honestly really made me sad. Every time I would go there, I would cry, and then I was having pain too. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Let's just leave it at that. Nothing's gonna happen. They isn't gonna do anything to save me, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. And my finger away. So after that, he stopped at, this went on for a couple of years. He stopped right before I was 10, because once again I got my period, and that was the end of that. But just because he stopped molesting me, the damage, it was still there, you know. He still was controlling me. I didn't hug him, I didn't speak to him, and eventually he got to jail for a crime he did. And that gave me a break. Like, I felt released, like free. Like, I don't have to worry about him touching me ever again. I don't have to worry about seeing his face. That gave me time to process everything and try to live a normal life. Even though I was still dealing with this by myself, I didn't tell anybody. Nobody knew what was going on. So even though he gone on to jail, the effect of what he done to me, it was still there. So eventually I became addicted to porn, and I was watching it 3 to 4 times a day. I used to think about sex a lot. What else? I didn't feel I didn't feel comfortable with people touching me. And I remember after he was done, another family member tried to do the same thing. I was like, no. It always starts off like how they be like, oh, hey, come over here, and I will go. But this time I knew, because 2 of my family members already done the same thing, and another one was trying to do it, and I was like, no, I already know how this is gonna end. I'm not with it. So that was the first time I actually said no to anybody from touching me. And I was proud, because I didn't want that to happen. I didn't feel comfortable going in the back of the house with him, you know. I didn't feel comfortable at all. So that happened. And then later on in school, like junior high, I was sexually assaulted by another male student. And this time I spoke up, I got the police involved, and nothing was done, obviously. But I was being victim blamed for speaking out and getting help and getting the police involved. People was calling me all types of things, you know, like calling me a hoe, a slut, things like that, and saying, oh, I should have never said nothing, I should have kept my mouth shut, basically. So having to deal with that, I decided to stop going to school. I told my mom, I'm not going back there. I refuse to go back there. So I decided not to go back to that school, so I switched over to a new school, and that helped. For a few years, everything was good, everything was smooth, you know. I was happy, I was joining things, meeting new people, you know, and everything was good. To finally be free and not have to, everything was good I was free, able to move on and be happy. So fast forward to last year, um, I got my first job, and at that job, once again, I was sexually assaulted. But this time, I decided not to say anything because I said something the last time in school, and it didn't turn out so well for me, you know? So I decided not to say anything. So I was dealing with it for a couple of months, and it was hard. Like, I was super uncomfortable. The guy, he was keep touching me. I told him to stop. He didn't stop. Um, he was making me really, really uncomfortable, and I didn't want to work with him. I didn't want to be around him. So every time they would put us working together, I wasn't happy about it. But I put on a smile so everything can go smooth, because I don't like drama, I don't like conflict. So I thought me smiling, it will make things easier for myself. And eventually I couldn't take it, so I decided to quit. I didn't tell a supervisor, I didn't go to HR, because I knew nothing was going to get fixed. And I didn't want to have to deal with that. So um, I just ran away from the issue. And that isn't really a good idea, because if you run, the problem's still going to be there. You know, like, I can't quit every job when I'm being assaulted. I have to deal with it. And, you know, I have to put my foot down, and I have to get comfortable with opening my mouth and saying, I'm not okay with this. Even though I say I'm not okay with this to them, if they don't do nothing, I have to, you know, go to a manager and have them removed or something, you know. And I'm getting better at that. I'm getting better at telling people, confronting them, saying this is inappropriate, I'm not comfortable, so please stop. And sometimes it works, other times it don't. But if anyone who's dealing with this, being sexual assaulted, whether it's in school, work, whatever, just know that it's people out there who's willing to help you and willing to understand you and who are on your side. Yeah, you might have a couple of people who blame you and tell you, oh, well, you open your mouth, but you have to, you know, face it and tell them, I'm not okay with this, so stop. If not, go speak to somebody who will listen. So my best advice to anybody who been molested or raped or whatever, know that it's not your fault. You couldn't do anything different to prevent this from happening, and know that it's other people who's going through the same thing. You just have to be strong, you have to be brave, and, you know, tell your story so other people can know and bring awareness to the whole situation. Nobody's perfect, but, you know, we all have our own story to tell, and it's the, you know, you just have to make it work, honestly. But I can say it do get easier as time go on, and as you share your story more and open up to people. Things do get easy, things do start to look up, and everything will work out. You know, you will come up on top. And I know people who be suicidal about it, and I'm telling you, don't kill yourself, because you're missing out on a great world. You know, everything's gonna be okay. All you have to do is just pray about it, and eventually things will get better. You know, just stay strong. And I would love to hear anybody else's story who been through something like this, to comment down below. I would love to read about your story and learn how you cope with things. Maybe, you know, you can help me, I can help you, and you know, help everybody out. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and till next time, thanks for watching.